Moving to Australia in 2025 could cost you more than you think, and most people find out too late. You see the salary numbers. You see the job offers. You calculate the rent, maybe it's some groceries. On paper, it looks doable, even comfortable. But here's where it breaks down. But wait. Before we begin, please subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my essential stuff. Comment "I subscribe" below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. With that said, let's get started. The belief. Australia sells itself as fair. High wages. Strong economy. Quality of life. The numbers back it up. Median income around $65,000. Minimum wage over $24 an hour. Higher than most of the developed world. You think, if I earn more, I'll live better. That's the assumption everyone makes before they arrive. The recruitment agencies show you the salary conversions. 80,000 Australian dollars looks huge when you convert it to pounds, euros, rupees. The lifestyle blogs show you the beaches, the brunches, the work-life balance. The government websites talk about safety, healthcare, opportunity. Everything points to the same conclusion. Australia rewards hard work. Australia takes care of its people. You believe it. Why wouldn't you? The reality. But Australia doesn't run on averages. It runs on what you pay every single week just to survive. And those costs don't care what you earn. Let's start with rent. Not the CBD luxury apartments you see in videos. Not the beachfront studios. The baseline. A one-bedroom apartment an hour from Sydney's centre, $500 to $650 per week. Melbourne, $450 to $580. Brisbane, once affordable, now sits at $500 plus. That's not including utilities, not including internet, not including the bond you'll never see again if your landlord decides the carpet has excessive wear. Here's the part nobody plans for. You're not just paying rent. You're paying rent weekly. That psychological shift hits different when you're watching your paycheck disappear every 7 days. Perth is climbing to $480 plus. Adelaide, the affordable city, is now $420 to $500. Even regional towns within commuting distance of major cities, places like Wollongong, Geelong, the Central Coast, are pushing $400 plus for a basic one-bedroom. Share houses. You're still looking at $250 to $350 per week for a single room. Shared bathroom. Shared kitchen. Shared everything. And you're probably living with strangers who leave passive-aggressive notes about the dishes. And that's just the beginning. The rental trap. Let me tell you what the rental market actually looks like in 2025. You find a listing. It's been live for 36 hours. There are already 40 inquiries. The inspection is on Saturday at 11 a.m. You show up. There are 23 other people there. Couples. Families. International students. Everyone dressed like they're going to a job interview. You submit an application. You provide 6 months of bank statements, 3 references, a cover letter explaining why you'd be a great tenant, your employment contract, your previous rental history. You compete with people offering 6 months rent up front, people offering to pay $50 more per week than the listing price, people whose parents are guarantors. You don't hear back for 9 days. Then you get the email, "We regret to inform you." You do this 11 times before you get a place. And the place you get? It's not your first choice. It's not your third choice. It's the one that said yes. The lease is 12 months. Break it early. You lose your bond plus pay rent until they find a replacement tenant. The landlord can increase rent once per year, and they will. In Sydney and Melbourne, annual increases of 8% to 15% are standard now. This is the part nobody plans for. You're not just paying for housing. You're paying for the privilege of maybe getting housing. The proof. Groceries. Let's talk groceries. A block of cheese, $12 to $16. A kilogram of chicken breast, $14 to $18. A bag of capsicums, $8 to $12. Breakfast cereal that costs $3 in the UK, $6.50 here. A jar of peanut butter, $8. And don't buy name brands unless you want to fund a small luxury. Coles and Woolworths, the 2 supermarket giants that control 65% of the market, set the prices. You either pay or you go without. The average Australian household now spends $180 to $250 per week on groceries. For a single person trying to eat healthy, budget $100 minimum. That's if you meal prep. That's if you avoid convenience. That's if you never eat out. But let's break down what $100 per week actually gets you. 7 chicken breasts, $18. Rice, 2 kilograms, $6. Pasta, 1 kilogram, $3. Pasta sauce, $4. Frozen vegetables, 2 bags, $8. Fresh vegetables, broccoli, carrots, onions, $12. Bread, $4. Eggs, dozen, $7. Milk, 2 liters, $5. Butter, $6. Coffee, $12. Fruit, apples, bananas, $10. Yogurt, $6. You at $101. You haven't bought snacks, haven't bought cooking oil, haven't bought salt, pepper, or any spices, haven't bought cleaning supplies, haven't bought toilet paper, and this is eating the same rotation of meals. Chicken and rice, pasta, eggs on toast. No variety, no dining out, no spontaneity, but you will eat out, because after working 9 hours and commuting too, cooking feels impossible. A basic cafe breakfast, $18 to $25. Lunch from a food court, $15 to $20. Dinner at a mid-range restaurant, $28 to $40. Add a drink, add tax, add tip culture that's creeping in from America, and you've just spent $50 on a Tuesday. A night out with friends? Pre-drinks at home because bars charge $12 for a beer, $18 for a cocktail, $15 for a glass of wine. Dinner with drinks, $80 to $120 per person. You start saying no to invitations. Not because you don't want to go, because you can't afford to keep up. This is the part nobody plans for. The human cost. Let me introduce you to Sarah. 29, registered nurse. Melbourne. Earns $75,000 a year, above the median. On paper, she's doing well. Here's her reality. Rent, $520 per week. Groceries, $120 per week. Transport, she doesn't own a car, $50 per week on public transport. Phone and internet, $35 per week. Private health insurance, because the public waiting lists are 6+ months for non-emergency, $45 per week. Electricity, gas, water, $50 per week average. That's $820 per week. $3,550 per month. $42,600 per year. She hasn't bought new clothes. Hasn't taken a holiday. Hasn't saved for a house deposit. Hasn't had a car repair emergency. Hasn't dealt with a dental issue that's not covered by Medicare. She earns $75,000 and lives paycheck to paycheck. And she's one of the lucky ones. She has a full-time job. She has super retirement savings. She has sick leave. But here's what her day looks like. She wakes up at 6 a.m., makes instant coffee because she can't afford the cafe on the way to work anymore. She takes the tram, 40 minutes in peak hour, works a 10-hour shift at the hospital, comes home exhausted, eats leftovers from 2 days ago, watches Netflix on the basic plan, goes to bed. On weekends, she sees friends, but only for walks or home dinners. Can't do brunch. Can't do cocktails. Can't do the things she moved to Melbourne for. She's 29 and she's living like she's broke. Even though she's not broke. She's just Australian. Now imagine you on a working holiday visa, casual contract, $28 per hour. Same costs. No stability. No safety net. Here's where it breaks down even further. The escalation. Transport. Let's talk transport. If you live in a city and don't own a car, congratulations, you're saving money. Sydney's public transport averages $50 to $70 per week. Melbourne's slightly cheaper at $40 to $60. Brisbane's catching up. But public transport in Australia isn't Europe. It's not Japan. Trains are delayed. Buses don't run on weekends. If you live in the outer suburbs, the last train home is at 11 p.m. Miss it, and you're paying $80 for an Uber. And if your job isn't near a train line, which most aren't, you're taking a bus. Or 2 buses. Your 15 kilometers commute takes 70 minutes each way. That's 2.5 hours per day just getting to work and back. So you think about getting a car. Here's what that costs. A used Toyota Corolla, 2015 model, decent condition, $18,000 to $25,000. You're financing that, which means interest, which means $150 to $250 per week in repayments. Registration, $300 to $800 per year depending on the state. Insurance, $800 to $1,500 per year. Fuel, $90 to $120 per week if you're commuting. Maintenance, tolls, parking, at another $1,000 plus annually. Let's break down fuel. Petrol in Australia averages $1.85 to $2.10 per litre. Your Corolla has a 50-litre tank. That's $92 to $105 to fill. If you're commuting 5 days a week, you're filling up every 10 days. That's $277 to $315 per month just on fuel. Then there are tolls. Sydney's M4 and M7, $10 plus per day if you're commuting from Western Sydney. That's $50 per week, $200 per month, $2,400 per year just to use the road you already pay taxes for. Parking. CBD parking is $30 to $60 per day. Even early bird rates are $20 to $30. That's $100 to $150 per week just to park at work. And that's just to get to work. Here's the part that makes people quit. Healthcare. The healthcare illusion. Medicare is free. Yes. Everyone loves to say that. Australia has universal healthcare. It's a selling point. But here's what Medicare actually covers. GP visits. Some specialists if you have a referral and they bulk bill, most don't anymore. Emergency room visits. That's it. It doesn't cover dental. Doesn't cover optical. Doesn't cover physio. Doesn't cover psychology beyond 10 subsidized sessions per year. Doesn't cover elective surgery without 12-month waits. So you pay for private health insurance. $80 to $200 per month depending on your age and coverage. And even then, there are gaps. You'll still pay $80 for a filling. $200 for glasses. $90 per physio session. Let's talk dental. You have a toothache. You book an appointment. The consultation is $120. The dentist says you need a filling. That's $180 to $300 depending on the tooth. Need a root canal? $900 to $1,800. Crown? $1,500 to $2,500. Private health insurance with dental might cover $400 per year. That's one filling and half a checkup. You need glasses? Eye test? $60 to $100. Frames and lenses? $300 to $600. That's if you don't have a strong prescription. If you do, add another $200 for high-index lenses. Mental health. Medicare covers 10 psychologist sessions per year at $80 to $120 per session. After that, you're paying $180 to $250 per session out of pocket. If you need ongoing therapy, and many people do, you're looking at $400 to $600 per month. Every time something breaks, your tooth, your ankle, your glasses, your mental health, it's another $200 to $500 you didn't budget for. This is the part nobody plans for. The numbers don't lie. Let's add it up. Conservative estimate. Single person, not living extravagantly. Rent, $2,000 per month groceries. $450 per month transport. $200 per month utilities. $200 month phone and internet. $100 per month health insurance. $120 per month miscellaneous. Clothes, toiletries, haircuts, prescriptions $150 per month. Total, $3,220 per month. $38,640 per year. That's before you've had a drink with friends. Before you've replaced your laptop. Before you've flown home to see family. Before you've saved a single dollar. To live that life, barely comfortable, no luxuries, you need to earn at least $55,000 after tax, which means a gross salary of around $70,000. And remember, that's conservative. That's no car. That's no dining out. That's no emergency fund. Most people arriving on skilled visas or working holiday visas earn $50,000 to $65,000. Casual workers, hospitality, retail, $35,000 to $50,000. The math doesn't work. But let's go deeper. Let's add the things you will spend money on, even if you don't plan to. Clothing, $50 per month minimum. Work clothes, gym clothes, replacing worn-out basics. Entertainment, $80 per month. Netflix, Spotify, one night out, one movie ticket. Haircuts, $40 to $80 every 6 weeks. That's $35 to $70 per month. Gym membership, $20 to $80 per month depending on the gym. Household items, $30 per month. Replacing kitchen items, cleaning supplies, minor repairs. Gifts, events, emergencies, $100 per month average. Birthdays, weddings, your laptop charger breaking. New total, $3,735 per month. $44,820 per year. Now you need $65,000 gross salary just to break even. And that's still without saving. Still without building an emergency fund. Still without planning for a future. The invisible costs. Then there are the costs nobody tells you about. You need a phone plan that actually works. $40 to $80 per month. Telstra is the only network with decent coverage outside cities, and they know it. Optus and Vodafone are cheaper but drop calls in the suburbs. You need work clothes that actually survive an Australian summer commute. Business shirts that don't show sweat stains. Shoes that don't fall apart in 40 degrees Celsius heat. That's $200 to $400 upfront. You need a bond for your rental. 4 weeks rent, upfront, non-negotiable. That's $2,000 to $2,600 just to move in. Plus 2 weeks rent in advance. You're paying $3,000 to $4,000 before you even have keys. You need furniture, a bed frame, mattress, desk, chair, even from Facebook Marketplace. You're looking at $800 to $1,500. Pots, pans, plates, cutlery, another $200 if you're thrifting. You need an Australian bank account. You need a tax file number. You need to lodge a tax return every year. $100 to $200 if you don't do it yourself. You need a car safety inspection if you buy used. That's $100 to $200. And if it fails, you're paying for repairs before you can even register it. You need contents insurance for your rental. $20 to $40 per month. Because if your apartment floods or gets broken into, the landlord's insurance doesn't cover your belongings. Every system has a fee. Every service has a gap. Every convenience has a cost. And that's before you factor in the lifestyle you thought you'd have. The brunches, the beaches, the weekend trips, the spontaneous drinks, the life you saw in the Instagram reels. That life costs $60,000 plus per year. Minimum. The comparison trap. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. You hear Australians complain about cost of living and you think, but you earn so much more than back home. And they do. An Australian nurse earns $75,000. A UK nurse earns £33,000, 65,000 Australian dollars. An American nurse earns 60,000 US dollars, 92,000 Australian dollars. But here's what you're missing. That UK nurse pays £900 per month for rent in Manchester. That's 1,770 Australian dollars. The Australian nurse pays 2,260 Australian dollars for an equivalent apartment in Melbourne. That UK nurse spends £180 per month on groceries. That's 354 Australian dollars. The Australian nurse spends 520 Australian dollars. That UK nurse pays £60 per month for utilities. That's 118 Australian dollars. The Australian nurse pays 220 Australian dollars. The Australian earns more, but they also spend more. And the gap between earnings and costs is smaller than it looks. Now compared to Europe. A German engineer earning 55,000 euros, 90,000 Australian dollars, pays 1,000 euros per month for rent in Munich. Spends 300 euros per month on groceries. Has public health insurance included in taxes. Doesn't need a car because public transport actually works. They are living better on less. This is the part nobody plans for. Australia's high wages don't mean high quality of life. They mean high cost of survival. The breaking point. Let me tell you about James. 33, IT project manager. Sydney. Earns $95,000. Married, 1 child. They live in Parramatta, 23 kilometers from the CBD. Rent, $720 per week for a 2-bedroom apartment. Childcare, $140 per day, 5 days a week. That's $700 per week. His wife works part-time because full-time childcare costs more than she'd earn. Groceries for 3 people, $200 per week. Utilities, $70 per week. 2 cars because childcare and work and opposite directions, $250 per week combined. Private health insurance for the family, $180 per week. That's $2,120 per week. $9,187 per month. $110,240 per year. They earn $95,000 plus $35,000. Wife's part-time equals $130,000 combined. After tax, $100,000. They are spending $110,240 per year. They are going backwards $10,240 annually. And they are both working. They have good jobs. They are doing everything right. They'll never own a home. Never take their kid to Disneyland. Never build wealth. They are surviving. That's it. This is what the Australian dream looks like in 2025. The question nobody asks. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Australia is expensive by design. High wages exist because costs are high. Costs are high because wages are high. It's a closed loop, and unless you're earning well above median, or you're willing to live like a student forever, you're just treading water. The government calls it a high-wage, high-cost economy. That sounds balanced. It sounds fair. But here's what it really means. If you fall behind, there's no catching up. No cheap rent to reset. No affordable groceries to buffer. No safety net that doesn't require months of waiting. You're either earning enough to survive comfortably, or you're drowning quietly. And the gap between those two realities is smaller than you think. The Reserve Bank raises interest rates to fight inflation. But rents go up. Groceries go up. Petrol goes up. Everything goes up. Wages. Those lag 18 months behind, if they go up at all. So you're expected to just absorb it. Cut spending. Stop saving. Give up the future to afford the present. And if you complain, someone will tell you, well, at least you're not in America. As if struggling in Australia is better because someone else is struggling more somewhere else. The reality check. Here's what nobody tells you before you move here. You won't feel rich. You'll feel stretched. You won't explore every weekend. You'll stay home because it's cheaper. You won't save for a house. You'll save to cover the gap between paychecks. You won't live the Australian dream. You'll live the Australian grind. And the hardest part? You'll look around and realize everyone else is grinding too. Your coworkers, your neighbors, even the people earning $120,000. Because in Australia, comfort doesn't come from earning more. It comes from spending less. And spending less means giving up the life you moved here for. So here's the question. If the cost of living is this high, and wages barely keep up, and most people are one bad month away from financial stress, who is this system actually working for?